What I'm going to do, just if you don't mind, is just ask each of you individually to introduce yourself, the name of your film, and a little bit about the film in terms of what inspired you to make it. And we'll just sort of chat to each other in that regard. So if that's okay, Josh, we'll start with you. Just, is that all right?
Yeah, of course.
Super,
My
thank you.
name is Josh Lynas, and my film is A Hard Place, which is a social realist film that kind of looks at the issue of homelessness, especially with women. And it's kind of a subject that's not exactly brought to light that much. So it was made while I was over at the BFI, NFTS kind of craft skills residential. So it was a really great kind of work environment to be in for the film.
Thank you, Josh. And yes, obviously with film, it is about having a platform to get a message across and to showcase a particular theme. So yes, what sort of brought you to the point of looking at females and homelessness? I mean, I know it's not something specifically that there's a niche with films already made about that, but you know, it is really interesting when you peel back the layers of that and sort of the circumstances that bring about perhaps a female being made homeless, not necessarily more likely or less likely than a male, but like, what was it about that particular strand that really interested you?
Yeah, of course. So when we joined, the team was like assembled basically, and we had a set writer. So Amy Upchurch, who's a great writer, originally wrote the script, and we had kind of then like a plan for us all to kind of develop the story more. So it was something that we all went away and kind of researched basically individually, and kind of came back and give our own thoughts and feedback on the issue. And it's, you know, it's not something you exactly think about much. So it was something that kind of I guess grew from like kind of creative collaboration, and the script changed multiple times before it actually got made.
Thank you. And did you have, well, maybe that was one of the challenges with the script changing, but were there any significant challenges then in the actual shoot? What might have been a difficult sort of set of challenges to overcome?
Yeah, so the way the residential is laid out, it's actually only 2 weeks long. And the first week of that is basically master classes and kind of focusing on your personal development. So really, when it comes down to it, we had a lot of time constraints with filming and especially editing. So the way the script was written originally, there was a lot of time jumps and kind of interchanging of the timeline. And we had about, I think, 2 days to film and then like 3 days to edit, which is really, really compact. So we had to kind of rearrange a more simpler narrative to edit basically, because the time frame wouldn't allow us to kind of be as ambitious
with it. Okay. And what hopes have you got for the film? I know it was part of obviously the course and everything, and maybe you're working on lots of other things at the moment, but what sort of hopes do you have for the film, maybe in terms of just audiences getting access to it and consuming it?
Yeah, well, sending it to as many festivals as possible. The way they run it is they don't allow it to be published publicly, so through festivals is how, you know, people would watch it. But for me personally, it was just a really good kind of learning curve and growing experience, you know, going over there to London and to film and direct that kind of short film. And it definitely has been enabling me to use that as a stepping stone in my career, basically, to, you know, other projects.
Excellent, thank you. Well, again, congratulations on being shortlisted, and good luck for the competition. Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much, Josh. Over to Lallie now, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course. Hi everyone, I'm Lallie. So the film that is in Cinemagic is called his assistant. It's basically, it was sort of inspired, I guess, because I started my career as a camera assistant. So I was working in the camera department, often on stills, as well as film. And I just found it quite interesting being female, really, in the camera department. And so I started noting down things that I noticed and how, I don't know, people often used to like view you as physically weak or and so and some of the things were quite comical, so I decided to make a sort of short parody of the experience. It's supposed to be fairly lighthearted, but obviously it touches on issues like the male gaze and, you know, different hierarchies within sets. And it was just generally my observation of kind of being there and being in the team. And I think that the main aspect of the film is about this lighting test. And so often when you're the girl in the team, you get put as the sort of like pretend model to stand in. And it's quite a strange, situation, because you're sort of forced to become the model and everyone's looking at you, but you're not. You're supposed to be this sort of like blank object. And I thought it was quite fascinating. So then I made a film sort of about that, and then stretched it around a fashion shoot, because I was often on fashion shoots, and sort of decided to highlight the kind of ridiculousness of those shoots sometimes, because they are quite ridiculous. And so then we resolved that and we shot that over 2 days now, quite a long time ago, but just I feel like nearly like over 6 months ago. But and now it's all resolved. And and that was sort of it. But it was really fun, and all the cast was incredibly young, and all the crew was incredibly young, and it was incredibly low budget, but we had a really good time.
Well, that's super, and it is such a fascinating look. You know, it's such an original idea as well, and looking, you know, the male gaze as opposed to the female gaze, and looking at females as the subject in that regard, and very topical as well. And I'm sure it's something, you know, that maybe sparked other ideas in you as well around, you know, females working in the film and television industry and everything that comes along with that. So that's great. Thank you. I think a very original idea, and as you say, you were trying to kind of have it sort of light-heartedly approached, but then it obviously does touch on serious issues as well that are sort of day-to-day experiences for females in the industry, and certainly from your perspective.
I mean, I tried to mix up it, obviously being like a reasonably, there is like heavier parts to it, but then also just showing that actually, there are various parts that are completely ridiculous, and like, you know, just like, and like even just with the wardrobe and stuff. But it was fun, and we'll see where it goes. I'm not sure. I would love to sort of extend it into something long form and actually do expand those ideas. We'll have to see.
Super, thank you. Well, thanks again for submitting it to Cinemagic as well.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. Okay, over to Stacey. Hi, Stacey. You're very welcome.
Hi guys. Hi everyone. So I'm Stacey Darkwaah. So the story is about a guy called Mike who planned a special day with his partner, but he can't quite remember what special day is. So the story is about him trying to get her to tell him what the special plan is, without her knowing that he can't quite remember what the special plan is. So I tried to tell a story that was quite playful, because a lot of my stuff previously has been quite like thought-provoking, and I wanted to prove to myself and to people that have watched my previous work that I can make films that are quite playful. in a sense. Yeah, it was just me trying to prove to myself that I can make something that isn't so thought provoking.
Super, yeah, and that actually was, that's a brilliant, testament to you as well, because sometimes you can safely keep making films of a specific genre or a specific style. So you were sort of pushing the boundaries to make yourself, try something different and to be known for being versatile as well. So that's brilliant and very much to be commended, because it is difficult to sort of go outside the sort of realms that you're comfortable with as well. Or, you're comfortable with it because that's just what you've done up until now, kind of thing. So, great. Well, I'm glad you did that. And I'm sure, as you said as well, it wasn't necessarily for anybody else. It was to sort of push yourself and try something different and give yourself a challenge.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. Okay, over then to Werner, please.
Hello, my name is Werner Vivier. I wrote and directed Winter Coat, which is, I'm going to give away the ending, which is fine. It's basically about two neighbors who spend a day running errands. It's about a young boy and an older woman, and it's an exploration into try and see if two people that have no blood relation or aren't family can have the kinds of bond or the same dynamic that you would have with a mother and a son. And so a big thing for me was just I wanted to do something that was like quite subtle, quite not taking itself too seriously, not too intense dramatically. And I wanted to just kind of focus on the small little mundane moments that people have every single day, and how those mundane things can actually be quite significant in your experience, in a relationship with someone. And so, it's really just a film. We just follow these two people in a bit of a voyeuristic approach, and we just kind of watch them as they go about their day. And in the end, you kind of realize that they're not actually related whatsoever, and you kind of think that they are mother and son throughout the film. So that was kind of the idea, to kind of play on that. And at the end, you realize that they're not related, and you start to understand their relationship. And it was really just something. I moved out of my house. I moved away from my family at quite a young age, and I'm originally from South Africa, so I haven't really been able to see my whole family who still live there. And so I've kind of had a very interesting relationship with people that kind of tend to be father figures or motherly figures to you. And so I was thinking about that a lot, and I wanted to make a film where, to kind of prove, I guess, in a way, that you can have those relationships with people that you're not related to. That's a very long, drawn out way to try and explain what the film's about. So that's essentially it. And it was me and a producer, a friend of mine. She'd never produced before, and we kind of just put a bunch of money we self-fundraise and ask people for favors, and everyone worked for free basically, and it was just equipment, and we asked favors for locations, and it was just a small little film that I put together with me and some friends really kind of tried to put together, and so we're very, very happy to be part of Cinemagic. So that's really great. Thank you.
Excellent. No, that's great. And it's brilliant to hear the backstory as well, that it is based a little bit on, based on personal experience, but just on sort of fleshing out that notion of relationships between people who aren't necessarily related, and can they have that same special bond, or just that same bond in general, with all the highs and lows that come with it. And again, really, really fascinating, and probably very much a universal message as well, because I'm sure you're not the only one in that type of position, so I think it'll be really relatable as well, and hopefully audiences will have a really positive reaction to it, and obviously very much a human story as well, and sensitively told. And did you have any big sort of production challenges to it, or were the challenges more so in the writing and the development? Like what did you find more challenging in terms of the phases of the filmmaking process?
I guess the biggest challenge really was more the production aspects that went into it, not really the creative side, the writing and speaking to, I mean, like the DP, she was absolutely incredible. She's a good friend of mine now. So everyone that worked on it, that was the easy part, communicating with them what we wanted. The biggest thing was really our limitations with, you know, finances and locations. And so we only were able to really shoot on locations that were able to give us time and space for free or for very, very little money. And equipment was a big one too. But the DP, she had a very good relationship with rental houses, and that was able to help us get a lot of things, you know, on discounted prices. So I think that was the biggest one. And also it was my first time working with, I haven't really done a lot of work, but it was my first time working with a child actor in a lead role. And so that was quite challenging, but it actually ended up, there were scenes where we didn't even, the dialogue seemed very performative. And so I was like, I had no idea what we were going to do. So I was like, you know, let's just improvise a bunch. And so I just kind of threw out prompts, and then it loosened him up a lot more. And he was able to kind of just get bored and not feel as though it was dragging on. And so I think that was a big limitation, which I think ended up making the film a bit more realistic in a way, I guess, or a bit more truthful, I guess, in the way that his performance came across. I hope. Who knows?
And in relation to casting, for example, how did you approach that in terms of, in that instance, working with a young person and finding the right person for that role?
It was a mixture of lots of things. I have a few friends who went to acting school here and are actors themselves, and so they would just kind of put it on message boards, and the casting director, she did a great job of just trying to source people from all these different places. So I actually had seen the lead actor, his brother. I'd seen his brother in a short film, who for a director that I've assisted, that I've worked with once, just like doing like BTS stuff for her, and he was really great, and I wanted him to come and audition, and then the mom was like, well, he's got a little brother who's only a couple years younger. Would you like to see him as well? And then when the brother came, he did a great job. But when his younger brother came, we just thought that he was perfect for the role. So it was quite funny. I think everything kind of just happened organically, I guess, in a lucky way.
Brilliant. That's great to hear. And hopefully no rivalry or conflict between the two brothers in terms of who eventually got the part then.
No, I think he was probably busy on a lot of other projects, so he was just doing it as a favor, and his little brother actually was, you know, he wanted to come.
Brilliant. No, that's great. Again, you know, it's always brilliant to sort of lift the lid on how the film came to be and the backstory, you know, to it, you know, in some small sort of detail today. So thank you. That's brilliant. Okay, over to Ellie. Hi, Ellie. You're really welcome.
Hi there. So my name's Ellie, and my film's called Only Us. And it's about two characters who are in a relationship, but one's trying to break up with the other person. And as they go to drive out of the car park where they've been kind of talking, the gate is shut and locked, so they can't actually leave. So it's kind of like a metaphor on their relationship, if that makes sense.
And very much then a universal thing that lots of people can relate to.
Yeah, I hope so.
And when was it filmed, Ellie? Was it in the last 6 months, or was it pre all the lockdown?
It was pre-lockdown. It was filmed in November, but I'd chosen to shoot it at night. So that did kick up a few issues, because obviously it's freezing cold, middle of the night, and it was trying to make sure everyone's warm and safe and all that. So yeah. And
was it a film that you know, had to make as part of another task, or was it just a film that, you know, you wanted to bring to life? Like, was it part of another program, or how did it, you know, come to be that you were actually making a film?
So it was my first fiction project of my second year at university. So it was for a university project.
Great. Well, that's brilliant. It was done in November, because there could have been a lot more challenges post the springtime, because a few other chats that we've had actually today for Young Filmmaker, you know, films have been produced and made obviously in lockdown, and people's ideas of what their films were going to be obviously had to change dramatically with the situation that presented itself. So it is going to be an interesting year obviously for films and those that were made in the lockdown period. So I'm glad that you're one then, you were able to see the vision through without any extra without any extra social distancing challenges, as that might have been difficult in a car scenario.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Brilliant, and well done again on being shortlisted. As I said, the standard is so high this year, so we really are wanting to acknowledge the very best of the best that was shortlisted. So well done. Okay, over now to, I'm just going to see, yeah, Fiona, are you there? Can you turn on your video? Okay, are you able?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
I didn't realize it was off.
You're grand.
Hi.
Hi, you're very welcome.
Thanks. I'm Fiona. I directed and co-wrote Starlight, which it was a university project back in January, my first year. And me and my co-writer Armin, we were kind of struggling to come up with an idea, which obviously we kind of incorporated into the script. It's about an artist struggling to come up with an idea for his painting, and he goes out and gets inspired by a random encounter, and it's mainly a comedy. It's kind of I guess an absurd comedy, but there's also meant to be an element of sincerity to it, I guess, because even if you know, when we see the painting we think it's funny and it's not really a very good painting, like to him the experience was meaningful. I wanted to convey that as well, because it did sort of help him to get his inspiration back. And yeah, I guess it's kind of like I wanted to make it again quite relatable for a lot of people, this idea of like procrastinating and not just like the terror of not being able to come up with any inspiration, and sort of exploring how people get inspired and find their ideas and everything. So yeah, it's just kind of autobiographical of us trying to write our script, I guess, in a way.
Brilliant. And how many people were involved then in the sort of final process? Like, I assume it was quite a small team of you then.
Yeah, there in the crew there was 6 of us, and 3 in the cast, obviously, and I had a friend in Canada who did the music, so I guess technically a crew of 7. So yeah, not too many.
Super, thank you so much. Actually, on that, in relation to music, do each of you find that that is something that heavily influences, or you know, is the music something that is so very important to you when you're making film? Is that something you would think about at the outset? Does anyone want to have a wee comment on that? Because I always find that's something that I very much tune into with shorts or features, and I always would like to know from a director point of view, at what stage do you think about music?
So I think with me personally, it's not at the beginning, but maybe like in the post-production, once the film's actually cut together, it doesn't pretty much sound complete until like you have the score. So I think, I mean, from the beginning, I sort of like have got an idea of what kind of like feel I'd like for the score, but I don't actually start to like plan until it's all cut together.
Yeah, it never feels complete then, or that's sort of like the magic wand then at the end when the music sort of knits it all together for certain scenes.
Yeah.
So Fiona, then with your friend in Canada, was that something then that you sort of wanted to get them involved with from the outset?
Yeah, he's so I met him last year, and he's also really into filmmaking, but also like particularly film score composing, and he'd been saying like just to let him know if I ever had a project that I wanted to work with him on, and I was like, yeah, great, this would be and it was quite last minute, sort of just we weren't really planning on having a lot of music. We wanted it to be a bit more sort of quirky mumblecore type feel, but then we realized this would probably work better with some music, and I texted him, and he just really like I told him to kind of, since we'd been quite inspired by the movie Her with our visuals and everything, and I told him to listen to that soundtrack, and I thought that would be kind of a nice style to go by, and he just like pretty much immediately gave what I wanted. Like I didn't really have to do that involved, which is good because I don't know a lot about music, so I didn't have to say a lot about it. Yeah, I was quite late in the process with this particular film.
So am I right in thinking that everybody here their film was made before lockdown then, in this instance. Yeah. Well, that's really interesting, because you probably then, you know, you were able to make it in the way that you wanted to make it as such. So that will be something sort of just going forward as well. Like what we'll notice from films that are made this year, you know, it's nearly like a time capsule of films, like before and after lockdown. And have any of the themes, obviously throughout each of your films, are they themes that you would like to continue and carry on to develop into a feature, for example, or, you know, another short, you know, further exploring that? Because I think that's interesting for audiences to know, like, are you, sometimes you can just be happy with the short and that did what it needed to do, but would any of you really still want to continue drawing out the theme and the sort of storytelling from your film?
I guess I'm gonna go. I think weirdly everything that I've written or thought about making has kind of the theme of family in some way. I mean, it sounds very corny, but I guess the theme of like, I'm really interested in like the bond that people can have when not related, but have like a familial bond. I think that's kind of worked its way into like everything that I've written in some way. So it's definitely, I guess it's a bit of a subconscious choice, really. Sometimes, you know, you don't really like make a conscious decision and be like, this is the theme I'm going to go with. You have an idea and then you're like, oh, that's actually exactly in that ballpark of what I tend to think about the whole time. I don't know. Yeah.
Or what you're drawn to.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you're not going to turn down a completely different genre if you get a gig being the director for that, but I know what you mean. It's something that's just innate. It's quite innate in you that's what you want to explore.
Yeah, I guess like a lot of people's styles or how people kind of approach things, it's influenced based on the themes that they like to follow. And then so anything that you end up making, you end up working it in somehow, because it's kind of just the lens through which you see things, and you think that that's, I don't know, it just kind of works its way in some way. Somewhat, yeah.
Totally. And is everybody continuing now to work on things? Is everyone sort of getting back to some sort of normal? Are you able to continue on making shorts this year, for example?
I think lockdown was quite good in some respects. I don't know about the rest of you, but you had a chance to actually write and really think about your ideas, and you had some space that whilst we couldn't actually shoot or make anything, it was a really good chance to write and develop stuff, and you really didn't have an excuse. Well, I said it to myself, I didn't have an excuse not to. So I think that although it wasn't, I haven't actually made anything. I've shot a few things. I haven't actually compiled it yet. I think that was really good in some respects, to sort of like sit with your ideas and actually have the time to process them and write them, even though it was quite stressful a few months.
Yeah. Well, that's brilliant. I mean, this year obviously is a very different Cinemagic Festival, but we're really embracing it because it means that we can actually, reach out to sort of, deeper and wider audiences, for example, because, more people potentially will be able to see your films now because we are showcasing them in this online format, and we really want to embrace that, as opposed to think, oh no, we can't show the films in a cinema in a normal sort of environment, because not all the time can all the shortlisted filmmakers travel to Belfast. Obviously when they can, it's brilliant, and there's so much to be said for a cinema event and that feeling. However, we've just really embraced it this year, and that's why we wanted to sort of check in with you on Zoom as well, ahead of the showcase during the festival, because it's just really lovely to put faces to names and just hear a little bit about what inspired you to make the film, and why you sort of wanted to get that message across. And hopefully then with being at Cinemagic, it will reach different and new audiences in this way this year.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.